Although Kim Jong-un has already sent 10,000 DPRK soldiers to Russia, recent reports suggest that the number might double in the coming weeks.
The evidence now suggests that North Korea has sent around 10,000 soldiers to train in eastern Russia. And some of these DPRK troops have already moved closer to Ukraine. And we're seeing them outfitted with Russian uniforms and provided with Russian equipment.
It was also revealed that Putin has been purchasing billions in ammunition from North Korea for over 2 years now. Will North Korea send more than 20,000 soldiers to Russia? And what did Putin give in exchange for the ammunition? If there was ever doubt about the amount of North Korean troops deployed to Russia, it's been cleared now. According to a report from the Friedrich Naumann Foundation, DPRK soldiers deployed to Russia may reach as many as 20,000 in the coming weeks. North Korean Foreign Minister Choe Son-hui is also said to have made 2 trips to Russia in only 6 weeks to potentially dispatch more North Korean troops to help in the war against Ukraine.
Now, North Korea's foreign minister is on her way to Moscow for talks with her Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. The Russian Foreign Ministry says Chu Son-hee arrived in the eastern city of Vladivostok on Tuesday before traveling to the Russian capital. Her second visit to Russia this year seen as a mark of increased cooperation between the two countries.
This followed by an announcement on October 29th that North Korean soldiers are being taught Russian commands, and the first batch have been moved to fight in the front lines in the region of Kursk. Russia is teaching North Korean soldiers about 100 basic military words like fire and in position, the South Korean government stated. South Korea's intelligence also revealed that in order to protect Kim Jong-un and cover up any news of North Korean troops in Russia from spreading in North Korea, the government has banned DPRK soldiers from using phones throughout their stay in Russia. Their families and relatives were simply told that their sons were doing a military exercise. The intelligence agency further claims that, despite these strict measures, the families of the soldiers and citizens have caught wind of the situation and are now questioning why their soldiers are dying for a foreign country. But this might just be the beginning, because in order for the North Korean army to pose a significant threat to Ukraine, Kim Jong might have to deploy more than 20,000 soldiers.
What's being said about the reasons behind this visit?
Well, the reasons are very clear. It's ironing out details.
Is this possible? Yes, North Korea has the 5th largest military forces in the world, with a staggering 1.3 million active personnel. However, it is widely believed that Kim Jong-un will be sending only 20,000 soldiers.
However, in this case, problems with logistics may arise. The expert is convinced. The more, the greater the burden on logistics, and the logistics shoulder is huge. From the North Korea to Ukraine, 10,000 kilometers, and the Russian Federation and the DPRK are connected by one railroad.
But it's more than just logistics. The true limitations lies in the government's dictatorial system, and Kim Jong-un is not ready to expose his regime to any vulnerability. The first problem North Korea might face by sending that many soldiers to Russia is desertion. There are reports that Kim Jong-un may have concerns about his soldiers seeing a different living standard, more free and less tyrannical than their home country, and decide to desert their post. Back in 1947, during the Cold War, Soviet leaders faced similar issues. Some of their soldiers defected to the West after they were promised a better living and personal freedom, so Kim's fear might be valid after all. Coupled with the fact that the soldiers being in a foreign land limits North Korea's intelligence agency's ability to enforce loyalty or enact the usual strict surveillance and punishments. But unfortunately for Kim Jong-un, less than a week after his soldiers were moved to the front lines, there are already reports that North Korean soldiers have been caught trying to run away from the war.
18 North Korean servicemen who attempted to escape from the positions of Russian occupation forces in the Kursk region were detained by Russians in the Komarishsky district of the Bryansk region. Union was informed of this by sources in the main intelligence directorate.
Just as the West encouraged Soviet soldiers to surrender back in the 90s, Ukraine's I Want to Live program, which is a 24-hour hotline for Russian soldiers who want to defect, has begun broadcasting videos in Korean language calling for the surrender of the DPRK soldiers. You must not die senselessly in a foreign land. You must not repeat the fate of hundreds of thousands of Russian soldiers who will never return home. The Korean language broadcast reads, and the soldiers will not be surrendering just to be taken captive. There are promises of health care, food, and safe conditions of detention. Although they won't be completely free, the living conditions in Ukraine's camps might be way better than back home. So a high rate of defection is probable. The second problem that limits Kim Jong-un's ability to deploy more soldiers to fight in Russia is the damage it could do to his regime. Should he deploy up to 100,000 soldiers, North Korea's defense will be weakened, exposing the country to a possible invasion by its rival, South Korea. Since the United States helped resist and defeat Soviet-backed North Korea invasion of South Korea in July 27, 1953, both countries have remained rivals to date. Divided by a 4-kilometer-wide buffer zone known as KDZ, both countries have the prospect of war. So with this, Kim Jong-un is quite nervous about sending so many troops to aid Russia. Although North Korea might be able to provide Russia with enough soldiers, the country is offering Putin something even better. Recent reports state that North Korea is supplying Russia billions worth of arms and weaponry in the war against Ukraine, and that's just the beginning. After studying leaked documents, intelligence reports, and previous North Korean arm deals, Olena Gusianova, a scientist at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies in Seoul, estimated North Korea's current arms delivery to Russia at a shocking $5.5 billion. So even if Russia runs out of soldiers, it will still have years' worth of ammunition and missiles to use in the war against Ukraine. It was also revealed by intelligence sources that North Korea may have been supplying Russia with ammunition from as far back as September 2022, about 6 months after the war in Ukraine began. As of October, North Korea had reportedly transferred over 1,000 containers of arm and weaponry to Russia. But that was just the beginning, because by February of 2024, the numbers of containers had increased to 6,700. By October 2024, it was estimated by South Korean intelligence, as well as US intelligence, that the delivery had increased to a shocking 20,000 containers per month. Before Russia began to receive the arms delivery from North Korea, the country was reportedly rationing bullets during the war. Studies show that at the start of the war, the Russian military fired 70,000 to 80,000 rounds daily. But only 2 months in, and the rounds fired decreased to 60,000 per day. 7 months into the battle, by November, the Russian forces were reported to only firing 8,000 rounds a day. How did things get so bad? Well, some sources believe that Russia assumed the war would end quite soon and did not expect this much resistance from Ukraine. Therefore, the country spent most of its stockpile in the early stage of the war. At first, Putin tried to increase domestic production of ammunition. However, the country could only produce about 250,000 artillery shells a month. That's about 3 million a year, and this number could only support a firing rate below 10,000 rounds. So Putin had no other choice but to source North Korea's help in the delivery of ammunition for its soldiers in the front line. According to intelligence sources, the content of the shipment consisted of about 80 to 95% of ammunition, primarily 152 millimeters and 122 millimeters artillery shells, while the remaining 5 to 20% includes other weaponry, such as missiles, rifles, rocket launchers, and mortars. However, the reliability of these weapons have been questioned, and there is news that the shells have been exploding, causing fatal injuries to the Russian military.
The shells that Russians bought from North Korea are exploding in gun barrels. The Russians are experiencing a shortage of ammunition of their own production, so they use artillery and mortar charges from the North Korea, which are of low quality. This is stated in the morning summary of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Due to the lack of ammunition of their own production, the occupiers were forced to use shells and mines from North Korea. Due to the unsatisfactory condition of such ammunition, rare cases of their bursting right in the barrels of guns and mortars of the occupiers are recorded, which leads to the loss of weapons and personnel of the invaders.
But Putin has refused to give up and continues to purchase more munitions from Northern Korea. Only this time, Russia is buying the weapons with expired flour.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has been accelerating Moscow's rapprochement with Pyongyang. In one outcome, Russia supplied North Korea with flour in exchange for artillery shells needed for its invasion of Ukraine. On December the 15th, however, photographic evidence surfaced that the flour Russia sent was past its expiration date. It shows a close-up of 2 bags of Russian flour weighing 2 kilograms each. They were from a shipment of 100,000 tons of flour unloaded at the port of Chongjin in northeastern North Korea.
But the interesting part of this deal is that Russia actually gains way more than just ammunition from North Korea. North Korea has strong ties with China, so through North Korea, Putin can build a strong tie with China, a superpower in Asia. So even if North Korea does not provide Russia with more than 20,000 troops, by building new allies, Putin may just have figured out how to continue this war.